And his crew handled the rides of today's hottest celebrities. Because whether you're East Coast or West, a car is just a car until it's unique. Unique Whips, Wednesday night at 10 Eastern, 9 Pacific on Speed. Welcome back to the Michelin 24 Hours of Le Mans, the Circuit de la Sarthe here in Le Mans, France. Great to have everybody with us. A good look there at the number 16 Pescarolo Sport. Judd-powered sports car in the hands of Eric Comas right now, running second overall behind the number 8 Audi of Marco Werner. The Audi R10 TDI. Sebastian Loeb in the team Pescarolo entry sits third. And, of course, the big development recently has been the Audi of Christensen going into the garage for some work. They are still working on the front of the car, but more work unfolding at the back, Dorsey.
Yeah, you see the mechanic back there ratcheting away. This little dashboard thing is inconvenience. That's not the problem. Problem's back here in the back, and it's something major.
Okay, Brian, what are you hearing down there?
Well, the telemetry guys was showing them that they had some fuel pressure issues. The engine wasn't stumbling, it was running fine, but they wanted to get it taken care of. You know, telemetry is a great thing, but what it means is they're going to have to change a lot of components in the back of that engine. It looked like they were definitely changing the diesel injectors in the back, or probably some other fuel-related electronics as well.
I saw the fuel rail, if you will, or the fuel lines that go to the individual injectors laying up on the fender work. So certainly I think you're right, Brian. They're probably putting fuel injectors in there and replacing those lines.
Well, we know the one thing they're not changing is the plugs.
Look at all the debris at this crash site, and they haven't gone to
no, that's not the crash site. That's on the main straight.
That's those pieces of rubber then that was hitting on the Audi from before.
And gentlemen, I don't want to be a naysayer here, but I think we have just seen a huge development, certainly in terms of Tom Christensen extending his streak of consecutive wins and adding to his overall win tally here, because this has just gone from being a job up front to a job of catch-up, and that is not always well done.
He's dropping like a stone. He's three laps down already and still in the garage.
Well, he will be. Here's the crash site. I must say, it looks pretty clean. I'm not quite sure where the wrecked car is. They must have hoiked it over the guardrail with a crane or something there, just out of sight down to the Indianapolis corner.
Well, there are a lot of marshals out picking stuff up, but one, I wouldn't have wanted to have been one of them with cars coming screaming through that section of track. And how well could they have cleaned it without proper time and the like? But I guess the officials have deemed it to be okay. But at this stage, continue to watching the action here of the Pescarolos. And we're watching Comas, Loeb, of course, behind him. And let's check in with Chris Neville.
Well, Greg, we should be seeing the Pescarolos coming to pit lane here in the next few laps. Both the 16 and the 17 car, both running very well. Teams are saying the cars are running fine. It's just we can't keep pace with the Audis. There's nothing we can do at this point in time other than let the clock turn. So these teams just saying, guys, keep it on the racetrack, take it real easy. We still have a lot of racing in front of us, and Audi right now is having problems.
Well, you know, we were all speculating a little bit about what would happen in terms of outright speed when we got here, but maybe some of us forgot the lap that McNish turned in qualifying at Sebring. It kind of had a lot of heads wagging, and we're seeing that kind of pace now. But we have another very special guest here in the booth. But Mr. Hobbs, I'm going to let you introduce this gentleman and have a chat with him because you've spent some time with him.
Well, we're going to welcome with us Richard Atwood, the first man. Oh, there goes the Aston Martin 007, having a very traumatic day. That's down at one of the chicanes on the straight. Of course, in our day, Richard, they didn't have those silly chicanes.
No, we didn't have that problem there, so it was just a straight line.
That wasn't a chicane, that was Mulsanne, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's one of the chicanes that are down the Mulsanne. So, yeah, they weren't there then, but that's a long time ago.
Richard, of course, won the first race ever here for Porsche overall, as we watch the 007 have a lurid slide off the road. The driver at the moment is Thomas Enger, who put that car on pole in the GT2, but got off to a horrible start, going over the curb earlier on, cracking the oil pan, sump to you and me, chap, and losing all the oil.
Yeah. And that actually happened coming into the pit lane. He had got a call from the crew chief, pit right now, and he was right there, and he cut in there and hold the oil pan, so luckily he was right in his garage.
Yeah, I think he pulled an oil pipe off, actually. It wasn't the engine sump, it was an oil line, I think, so it was relatively easy to repair, but if it had been the hole at the bottom of the engine, it would have been more difficult, I think.
Now, Richard, you won this race, as we saw there in 1970, the first guy to win overall in a Porsche, and of course since then they've gone on to win another Another 15 of them, 16 wins overall. Track's changed a lot since those days. What do you think of the new Dunlop curve and down to Tertre Rouge? Tertre Rouge has been realigned.
I actually haven't been around the new track, the track as it is now. I only came last year for the first time after 25 years, so I'm not really up to speed with them all. But of course, all the chicanes have been put in to address the speed, which is always a problem here. But they seem to still reach the same terminal speed anyway, so it's just that you're not doing it all the time, I guess.
The one place they haven't changed much is from Mulsanne down to that right-hander before Indianapolis, where you go over those two brows.
Yeah, great corners, aren't they? Yeah.
Great corners, but a bit on the dodgy side, though.
Well, only that they're quick, that they could be dodgy. So if you have a problem there, then it's going to be a big one. So, that's what they tried to do over the years, is contain the speed.
Well, as a matter of fact, a little bit earlier this weekend, David, you went out to that very spot on the track and did a little bit of looking it over in a bit of a nostalgic sense and taking a look at some of the changes that have and have not occurred in that section of track.
Since the first race here in 1973, this circuit has gone through 12 major revisions. But the one part that seems to have gone slightly unscathed is this: the everyday road from Mulsanne, about a mile and a half up there, to Arnage, about a mile down there. Nothing has been done to this road, hardly at all, and it is now the fastest part of this circuit. The LMP1 car is doing about 215 miles an hour. And as they go over that little hump, just the other side of this apex, that is where in 1999, Peter Dumbreck took that huge flight into the trees on my right. He emerged absolutely unscathed.
Back high, Mercedes, but it has gone again! Oh, there it is, it's into the trees. Right.
About the only major thing that's happened here, this guardrail, which was added in 1970, has gone from where I'm standing to there. So I guess they got a bit of run-up now. There's the apex I was standing on, about a quarter of a mile up the road. As you can see, pretty narrow, not a lot of runoff area. But as we arrive here, this right-hander no-name corner before Indianapolis, they have reprofiled this corner. The guardrail used to be right where I'm standing now. It's not as sharp as it was. They got tons of runoff area for the cars because they arrive here at around about 220 miles an hour before they brake and turn left into Indianapolis. A real signature corner here at Indianapolis because it is a bank left-hander, hence the name. And right where I was standing there is where that Courage came unglued just a few laps ago.
And our first and third in class are now in, by the way, gentlemen. That is Marco Werner bringing the Audi in, and there will be a driver's change. Looks like Emanuele Pirro will be getting behind the wheel. Also coming in was Eric Comas, bringing the car in as well. So that's the significance right there. And you can see Werner helping get everything bucketed up. There he goes. He's plugging in a number of things. And let's get down to Brian Till.
Well, it looks like a routine stop, Greg, but it is not. There's something going on with the 8 as well. Ralph Jobner, the team manager, has another steering wheel in his hand. He's standing back in the garage holding the steering wheel. And there's some speculation. There's been some arguing actually going on amongst this team as to what it is they're going to do. I don't know if it's a paddle shift problem or some type of electronic readout on this dash, but all is not well. He'll take it back on track, but there are some problems with the number 8 Audi.
Well, that steering wheel controls absolutely everything. You shift with it. It tells you when to shift. It tells you everything that's going on in the car. You talk to your mechanics and back to the pit lane with the steering wheel buttons. Without that steering wheel, you're in dire strait.
The modern steering wheel on these cars, from these cars to Formula One, is the most intricate and amazing piece of kit you can ever come across. It costs somewhere in the region of $50,000 each. So you don't want to go losing your steering wheel, which while Formula One, if you have any sort of retirement, you're supposed to put the steering wheel back on the car.
So lots of developments happening at the very front end of things. There is your leader in the GT1 division. And now we are on board with the team car, number 63, Ron Fellows. And here is a look at our top 5 overall. We'll be right back. Welcome back, everybody, and Great to have you with us here, and we have a very interesting development unfolding right here. You are watching the 009 Aston Martin as it is coming after the 64 Corvette in a battle for position, and also the number 7 Audi. Tom Christensen behind the wheel, making its way out of the pits now. He has been in that pit stall over 20 minutes, Brian.
Placed extensive parts on the back of that TDI. That V10 diesel is back underway, and it's funny, they started up in the garage a moment ago and you could not hear it. It's so quiet. So basically they've got a system that they plug into the exhaust that exhausts all the gases out of the back of the garage. That engine's so quiet, standing out in front, we couldn't even hear it running.
All right, thanks very much. Well, obviously Tom Christensen has an awful lot of work to do, as does the entirety of the driving quartet in that team. So that's going to be something we'll be following here, as of course we watch that battle on and off as the battle for GT1 starting to build. But also we've been doing a fair amount of chatting about things nostalgic, and also about the drivers of a former era. And with one here in the booth, we thought we'd maybe take a moment and step back and look at another great piece of track. Le Mans. Perhaps the two most evocative words one can utter in the world of international racing. It is certainly a place of great history, but also one of those exceptional venues where life can evolve into legend. For many, those legends revolve around the amazing cars that have become inexorably linked to this greatest of races. But even those legends would have never been born without the remarkable souls that brought those machines to life. And to me, there are no more compelling stories in motorsport than those of the drivers, les pilotes, who have achieved to some the unthinkable, to many the incredible, and to most the truly heroic. A classic example would be one of the greatest eras in terms of machinery to ever race at this legendary circuit, that of the fearsome Porsche 917 and Ferrari 512. But those cars would have been simply sculpture with promise were it not for incredibly talented and immensely brave drivers willing to get behind the wheel and drive them at 240 plus miles an hour down the Mulsanne, through the kink, over the hump, or to me, even more spectacular, continue straight on where now the Porsche curves bend to the right, over this bridge at 200 miles an hour, unsettling the car, then setting up while the car is not quite right through a series of very swoopy curves through incredibly tight, narrow public country lane, eventually continuing on and exiting where that white wall is, a legendary part of the track forever memorialized in Steve McQueen's great movie Le Mans, and only a year after that, considered so diabolical it was eliminated as part of the track, the now legendary Maison Blanche. And once
Maison
again,
Blanche was just behind that Ferris wheel. If you went the straight here, arrived at this point from Maison Blanche, which is about 3/4 of a mile down, just about where that little white house is to the left of the Ferris wheel. And that was Maison Blanche in the old days. And one of the guys that went through there was you, Richard, in one of those 917s.
Yeah, I did. It was coming up from Arnage, which is a slow corner that starts about a mile and a half before. You just approach that at flat-out speed, so probably doing around 200 and a bit, I would think. Maybe down a gear, and it was taken at about 160 miles an hour. And it was very, very high banking. There was no escape there. And if you went off, you just bounced off the bank and back into the middle of the track again. And I did have an incident there with, back in the early 60s it was, with Carlo Abate was in a Ferrari, and he lost the whole thing in front of me. And I was trying to decide which side to go past him, because he was actually slowing quicker than I was. And I had to decide which way to go. Unfortunately, I chose the right side.
Well, right where Greg was standing there, right where that ditch was there, too, the ditch, and then just a sort of barbed wire fence to keep the animals off the track.
Well, it was pretty hostile territory, and in the film Le Mans with the Steve McQueen thing, David Piper did actually go off just before Maison Blanche, I think, and there was a bit of a guardrail there, but it was mounted into soggy mud. It just folded down, and the barrier might as well not have been there.
Yeah, those barriers were not the best things in those days, but of course the first year of the barriers was when poor old Joe Bonnier was killed on the approach where I did my little piece there a few minutes ago. In fact, right here, he was killed when he went over the guardrail into the trees, because the guardrail then laid down on him and launched him like a model car.
Well, my first ever visit to Le Mans was when we went and drove the track, and then the Porsche curves took off, and I realized where we were going. and that little tunnel of trees and road, and to think about you guys going in there at 200 miles an hour, it just that really made the hair stand up and gave just a sense that I'd never had of what an amazing place this was, and what amazing cars those were, and what amazing drivers you were to be willing to do that. So thank you so much, Richard. Really appreciate you coming up here. It's it's been a real treat.
Pleasure to be on your channel.
All right, well, I hope you get to go out and enjoy a lot more good racing here, and we certainly should have more to come. The sun's starting to set here at the Circuit de la Sarthe. Don't go anywhere. Speed's coverage of the Michelin 24 Hours of Le Mans is presented by Michelin, a better way forward. By the all-new 2007 Lexus ES 350, the car that asks, is it possible to engineer desire? And by Progressive Direct. Call 1-800-PROGRESSIVE or visit progressive.com for a free quote. And we want to show you a little bit of a race recap. What's unfolded at the start, the two Audis from the front row leapt into the lead. The Pescarolo Judds could do nothing with them and simply followed them into the first turn. Then two cars with expectations had big moments early. First, the 007 Aston Martin broke an oil pump or an oil pan or an oil fitting, and also had an off just recently. Then two problems. One for the Corvette. Watch this. Johnny O'Connell gets it wrong. Well, damage to the left rear corner. Spent a little bit of time in the pits. Then for the Audis, close call here. Watch this as the number 20 Pilbeam splits them as it spins. And then Dindo Capello on a charge after he'd taken over from Alan McNish, trying to get underneath the Vinny Motorsports car, locks it up, it gets crossed up, manages to save it. Then two spectacular moments. The Velter Racing Peugeot, climbing, bounding, flying, grinding over the curbs, comes to a rest, and then the most spectacular moment thus far, the number 37 Belmondo Racing P2 entry. Tire explodes into the guardrail. Debris, bodywork everywhere, even a bit of a fire. However, everybody was okay. The cars, of course, a bit of another story. So that's a look at some of the moments coming in here. Now we want to show you the class leaders, top three in each of our classes. In the two prototype divisions, in P1, it is the number 8 Audi out front right now in the hands of Emanuele Pirro. Then it is the two Pescarolo Judds sitting second and third. In the P2 division, it is the number 25 RML, Ray Malek Limited entry, leading over the Radical. Very impressive run here thus far. And also the number 39, which is the Chamberlain entry, which has had some problems, and it is great to see them up in the top three. We go to the GT divisions. It's the 64 CompuWare Corvette out front, but prior to a pit stop recently by the 009, it was getting very close. And then the number 72 Corvette C5 in the hands of Polican Guzlard and Luc Alphand, who is a legend here in terms of downhill skiing in France, sitting in third. And in GT2, it's been a back-and-forth battle. Currently, it's the number 83 Porsche from Cycle Motorsport that leads it. The 86, and this is a great story, is the Spiker that sits in the second spot. And we've seen a lot of cars working through there at certain points. We've also seen the car that qualified on pole up there as well. Let's check in with Brian Till.
Greg Emanuele Pirro behind the wheel of the 8 car. All is well there. I checked in with Ralph Yutner. He said it's just shift lights on the steering wheel. They can do without them right now. The 7 back underway, but many laps down. So it almost looks like it's last year in reverse. Pescarolo seems to be running fine. Audi seems to have the problems. Chris?
Brian, while we were away, both Pescarolos were in. First, it was the 17 car, and everything was fine with that car. Very quick pit stop. Sebastian Loeb staying in the car. Prior to that, it was the 16 car. Eric Comas bringing that machine to pit lane. Now, the only thing I noticed on that one is they did replace the windscreen. That windscreen was torn up by debris on the racetrack, something that we've seen collecting as this race is going on. Lots of rubber debris out on the racetrack. It was a quick stop for the 16 car. Not as lengthy as the Audi.
All right, gentlemen, thank you very much. And it has been an interesting and eventful start to a 24-hour endurance race. There's no question of that.
It certainly has, and everybody's been setting some cracking times. The best lap from the Audi of number 8 is a 3:32. The best lap that Christensen's car's done is a 3:33. The Pescarollos are both done a 3:35 and a 3:36, so they're not that far off their qualifying. So these guys are nailing it right from the drop of the flag, and we have seen quite a few instances. The two Aston Martin instances pretty hair-raising, and of course Johnny O'Connell, most unlike him, to just go driving off the road like that.
And Dorsey, you predicted some of that pace.
Well, yeah, I tell you what's catching my eye that I don't like seeing is there's this huge amount of rubber that's out on this racetrack, and we're starting to hear now of damage caused by these balls of rubber that are flying up. They can hit the driver and the helmet. They can hit all sorts of things. I think before this night's over, that rubber is going to be a big problem.
And keep in mind, we are very early into this night, and then, of course, a lot of coverage to come. At 8 p.m. Eastern Time, we will be back with more live coverage of the 74th running of the 24 Michelin 24 Hours of Le Mans, and it will be right to the very finish. But coming up next, some more great racing action, live NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series action from Michigan. So we'll take you to there. You're going to enjoy that. But as we said, there's going to be some great racing to unfold yet here at Le Mans. And when we come back at 8 p.m. Eastern, we will take you live right to the finish of this absolutely stellar event. And plus, bring you an extra half hour of coverage and bring you up to date on what unfolded, interviews with winners and champions and the like. So make sure you stay tuned for some NASCAR action from Michigan, and come back at 8 o'clock for the rest of this legendary event. We'll see you then.
Tonight on Speed. The greatest automotive endurance race in the world is back. 24 Hours of Le Mans.
Big slip right there.
Unbelievable.
Whoa.
Grueling, intense, unmerciful. Catch all the action this weekend from start to finish as Speed brings you live coverage from the 74th running of this prestigious event. 24 Hours of Le Mans continues tonight only on
It's 2 a.m. local time in France as we welcome you to Speed's live continuing coverage of the 74th running of the Michelin 24 Hours of Le Mans. Hello, everyone. I'm Bob Barcia, along with David Hobbs, Calvin Fish, and Chris Neville are down in the pit lane. However, we are suffering some technical difficulties, which has no doubt occurred to you. There is some bad weather in the area. We hope to take care of those difficulties and get back to all the action of this great race in just a short moment. So we'll take a break, hopefully get those difficulties resolved, and be able to bring you pictures and sounds from the Circuit de la Sarthe of the Michelin 24 Hours of Le Mans. So stay right there. Welcome back live to Speed's continuing coverage of the 74th running of the Michelin 24 Hours of Le Mans. I'm Bob Barcia with David Hobbs, Calvin Fish, and Chris Neville are down in the pit lane. We understand we have some pictures back. They may not be of the best quality where you are, but we're working on it. We apologize. Please bear with us. You're looking at the number 16, Pescarolo Judd, making its way back on track after a pit stop. Flying down the hill from the Dunlop Bridge toward Tertre Rouge, and then on to Les Hunetiers, the Mulsanne Straight away. Let's go down to the pit lane.
Here with Dindo Capello. Dindo, obviously some damage to the race car. What happened on the racetrack?
Between Mulsanne and Indianapolis, I overtook a GTS car. I think an Aston Martin, not the Pro Drive, the other Aston Martin. I think, but I'm not sure. It was a dark car, black car. And the apex on Indy, the fifth corner Indy, I get hit on the rear left, and really I didn't expect that. And I feel immediately it was a big hit because it really got on my rear wheel, and I was very lucky not to spin there, to keep the car on the track. But then I felt the nice cornering right, and something was wrong, and I had to go slowly back to the pit, and then we had to change the rear wishbone.
Seems like you guys having to push very hard with the problem earlier, with having to change the injectors. I guess you're on catch-up mode and really giving it everything you had tonight.
Yeah, because now, you know, I was doing every lap lap 34, but I promise you I was always in quite heavy traffic, and you know, I could get or take even a better pace, but and then I didn't take risk because I've seen there are few dangerous guys on the track, and I didn't want to take any risk, and it's really a shame what happened, because for sure he didn't see me, but I was behind him since 300 meters flashing, and I don't know.
Had to change the left rear corner on the car. The mechanics, the team confident the car will be in good shape now with Tom Christensen behind the wheel.
But for sure the car must be in good shape, should be in good shape. As you said before, since we changed the injector, we could really keep a very high, good and fast pace. But you know, now we were catching up the position 2, and another problem happened.
All right, Dindo, sorry for the problem. There's a long way to go yet.
Sorry?
There's a long way to go yet.
We are still thinking positive.
All right, mate, thank you.
Welcome to endurance racing. Here's a look at our class leaders. Welcome back live to Le Mans. We continue to struggle a little bit with technical difficulties, but we hope to get them ironed out sooner or later and bring you great pictures once again to go with the sounds of the 74th Michelin 24 Hours of Le Mans. I'm Bob Varsha with David Hobbs down in the pit lane. Chris Neville and Calvin Fisher on patrol. We expect to see the 4th place Audi pitted by 7 times Le Mans winner Tom Christensen shortly. Right now, his teammate Marco Werner leads. Sebastian Loeb is in 2nd in a Pescarolo Judd. Jan Lammer is 3rd in a Dome Judd. Then Christensen. And then the first of the GT1 cars, Stefan Ortelli, followed by Jan Magnussen. Corvette chasing Aston Martin. And then the LMP2 class leader, Andy Wallace in a Lola MG. Then a privateer Aston Martin, 3rd place car in GT1. And then a privateer Corvette. Another model, the C5R instead of the current C6R. The older car being fielded by former French World Cup skiing downhill champion Luc Alphin. The great driver lineup. And another of the Aston Martins in the hands of Andrea Piccini. And then another LMP2 car, Miguel Amaral in the Lola. And our GT2 leader, Pierre Eric, in a Porsche 911 GT RSR, has moved up onto the leaderboard into 16th place. So the GT2 cars are coming. There's the number 7 pit. Earlier, the man on that brake board was holding it up over the garage when Tom Christensen first put the car in the garage while the sun was going down for repairs. The sun was in his eyes. They stood there holding that board to give him some shade. There's the Miracle Motorsports Courage C65 LMP2 car. It's a fairly standard fuel stop. Rules on pit stops are very, very strict here at Le Mans. We talked about it before. Fueling can take place at the beginning or the end of the pit stop, but while fuel is going in, no mechanic can touch the car. So we see the mechanics often standing right there with their air guns at the ready, waiting to slap it onto the wheel hub the moment the fuel hoses come out. Look at that pit board list. I make sure the driver gets all those things done.
That getting the belts, you got to be a bit careful of the belts, because in the old days we'd always take the belts off coming down pit lane and in preparation for the pit stop to make a quick exit, because the pit stops were much quicker then with everything going on at once. Now you absolutely cannot undo your belt till you've stopped.
There's some more of the pit lane rules. Engines must be shut off. You must use the fuel supplied by the organizer. Just 2 air guns or torque wrenches in the pits. Only 4 mechanics and a couple of other very, very specifically designated personnel can touch the car. And ultimately, you cannot change chassis, gearbox, and so on. Now, we're getting word that the safety car is being dispatched. I'm not sure why. We haven't seen anybody in a dangerous position.
Well, that might be a good time for the number 7 car to make a stop anyway.
Absolutely. Now the number 62, the third place car in GT1, if I'm not mistaken, is in for a pit stop. Let's go to Chris Neville.
That's right, Bob. Antonio Garcia bringing this Aston Martin to pit lane. The team struggled a bit early on in the heat of the day. They said they had some tire issues, which has dropped them back 4 to 5 laps, but they said things have stabilized now. The car has been very quick. However, they're just trying to run laps, see what they can do, and try and catch up. Going to have to keep an eye on this car as things heat up later today and see if those tire issues come back. But otherwise, this team very happy. Cal?
The number 7 car, Tom Christensen, is in pit lane right now. He must be reporting some kind of problem. The jacks are at the ready. They have these very high density flashlights that went underneath the front of the car, and they were looking at something there, something that's not quite right, so they're going to wheel Tom back into the garage, take a further look. They don't want to put him in any danger, certainly. They want to be as safe as possible. So right now, the 7 car must have some issue from that earlier hit that Dindo Capello had. They're currently 4th, 8 laps down, so as we keep saying, there's a long way to go in this one. You think that Tom Christensen, maybe his luck, or just the great job that he's been doing here at Le Mans may have caught up with him finally, but these guys will not give up. They know that every second they can save here in the pits tonight may come back to reap rewards tomorrow afternoon at 5 o'clock.
Now we've got the 8 car also in the Audi pits. Marco Werner will climb out. He's looking around as though he expects his replacement driver to be there. Has he caught the team off guard? Normally the next driver comes leaping out of the garage when the car stops.
Oh, wow.
Steve Werner's waving him over. Holding the belts. I believe it's Emanuele Pirro who is doing the car. Yep, there's the Italian.
Zipping up his suit, putting his gloves on.
He was not ready. Oh, my. This is not like Audi, Calvin.
Well, you're talking. I've never seen this happen before with this team. Emanuele Pirro's been in the pit box for quite some time, so I'm not sure if Werner just made a unscheduled pit stop here. Came in a couple of laps early, but Pirro was definitely caught on the hop here, and these cockpits are a little bit tight anyway, and there'd been some concern if the drivers did botch the driver change at all, that would delay the pit stop. But right now, they're just trying to take the tear-offs off the headlamps. The mechanics are sort of like getting a little bit testy with one another. You got to stay cool here. This car is leading, but no major drama there. They just lost a little bit of time, but now he's been held at the end of pit lane, and now back underway. So probably lost about 5, maybe 10 seconds there with that slight faux pas in having Pirro ready for Werner coming into the pit lane.
Keep in mind, that is the race-leading car.
Now, I'm not quite sure he put his left wheel over that white line going out of the pit. I'm not quite sure how draconian they are on this Le Mans as they are in Formula 1. You put your left wheel on the line, on the line going out of the pits in Formula 1, you've got to make a stop.
There's our LMP2 class leader. Early in the race, Jan Lammers and the Dome team were brought through for a stop-and-go penalty for what Lammers thought was that very infraction, getting his left side wheels up on that white exit line.
And unfortunately for Pirro, that was on TV for everybody to see.
Let's go to Chris Neville.
Bob, Andy Wallace brought the RML Lola to pit lane. Mike Newton jumping behind the wheel. The team really taking their time here. They realize they've had some problems. They've had some problems with this car. However, everything looks good now. They didn't have to do anything more with the brakes. So the team not looking like too worried at this point in time. Cal?
Well, the 7 car is in the garage, Chris, and they're working on the floor of the car. This carbon fiber piece has been torn badly right down the middle there. So Dindo got hit, and he said that he had that off going into Indianapolis. Tom Christensen has obviously told the team that the car is not working correctly. We need to get this thing fixed if we hope to even see the checkered flag tomorrow afternoon. So they've also got the setup piece that goes onto the front end here. You see this sort of metal piece that's bolted onto the front bulkhead. That indicates to me that they're also going to check the setup, the alignment on this car once they've changed their bodywork pieces on there. And Dindo's been put back in. I'm not sure what Tom has said I did my single stint. Dindo can now go out and do a triple and make up for his little indiscretion earlier in the evening. But these guys are good buddies. They've won a lot of races together, including 2 Le Mans. So it's just one of those races where I haven't just gone their way thus far.
Well, Calvin, don't forget also early on in the race, Dindo put it off the road at the chicane right before the start-finish line here when he was lapping one of the LMP2 cars and went over the curb there big time. Leapt up in the air. That floor may be suffering from that little off as well.
Well, what you saw coming out from under the car was not Kevlar or carbon fiber, but plain old natural wood. Much like the Formula One cars, who have what our colleague Steve Matchett calls a legality plank underneath. Sometimes the best and cheapest fungible product to use comes from Mother Nature. We'll be back. Le Mans has been especially kind to Tom Christensen, winning in 1997 in a Porsche-powered car with Michele Alboreto and Stefan Johansson. And then in 2000, the great run with Audi, partnered with Frank Villa and Emanuele Pirro for 3 consecutive victories, then Ronaldo Capello and Guy Smith for 1, Seiji Ara of Japan and Ronaldo Capello for another, and most recently, JJ Leto and Marco Werner last year. And it was last year, Tom told me this week, that probably meant the most to him. Not so much because it was his record-breaking 7th and 6th in a row, but because that car had been hampered somewhat with extra weight. The great Audi R8, the gas-powered car, extra weight, air restrictors, and so on. They had to come from behind to get the win, but together they did it. He said that's why last year might be his sweetest yet. Let's go to Calvin Fish with the man.
Tom, it's been a tough day for you.
Yeah, well, sure, everything seems to, obviously there has been problems, but the car is still fast, but apparently from the crash Capello had with the car, I just woke up because I had to jump in the car early. The car was fast, but I just kept getting more and more vibration, and it looks like there was been another problem from the accident, that the front just got worse and worse, in a lot of resonance and a lot of movement at high speed, and they seemed the underfloor was loose.
The car seemed to be so strong at the beginning. Alan took off and had a nice healthy lead after his stint, and then Dindo got in and everything looked like it was routine for you guys. At this stage of the game, Tom, you've been in this race so many times. I don't think you've come from this far back. I mean, what is your approach here? Just flat out for you boys the rest of the way?
Yeah, okay, cautiously flat out, because we certainly can't afford any more problems. But the car is sort of running very fast and very good between the problems. And from that point of view, it's just approach the next corner and go as fast as we can without, let's say, risking too much. Obviously, in the traffic, we can take some chances and see if we can get it up on the podium, because the car is absolutely, we are really fast. We are flying. So in that sense, it's sad if we can't join the other car on the podium.
All right, Tom. Thanks for your time today.
Thanks.
Chris?
Cal down here with Andy Wallace. Andy, we heard that there were some problems with the 25 car. Have those been resolved?
Yeah, well, quite early in the race, we picked up a vibration under braking. We weren't really sure what it was, and finally it got so bad, the whole car was shaking, so we brought the car in and had a look. I think it was a nut on the wishbone or a joint on the wishbone came loose, so the wishbone was actually vibrating, and that's why it was coming through the brake pedal and the steering. So we fixed that. We lost a couple of laps, but now it's running fine.
Now, you've won this race. You've also won the 24 Hours of Daytona. How do these two races compare?
Well, they're pretty different. First of all, you got the 5 o'clock start here versus maybe a 10 or an 11 o'clock start in Daytona. The night here is really, really short, but it's also very, very dark. The night in Daytona is not really dark anymore. And out there, out the back, sometimes you can't see anything. It's very, very dark. But I think the biggest difference of all is the speed is so high here versus Daytona, and everything that happens in a split second. It happens very, very quickly. You catch a slow car or you misread a situation and you're in trouble very, very quickly. Daytona, you've got more time to think.
With the 5 o'clock start this year, is that going to make the race more difficult?
Well, you know, we had to get here for the warm-up at 9, and the team scheduled a meeting at 8, so we had to wake up really early. I hate waking up early anyhow. You have to wait all the way through till 5 o'clock, and it's going to be a long race. And you see it's not even halfway over yet, and so many people have had trouble already.
Even with the problems, they've got a 3-lap lead right now in LMP2.
And they are the defending champions with RML. Here's a look at the drivers who have won overall at Le Mans, Daytona, and the 12 Hours of Sebring. Some great names up there. Mauro Baldi, the late Al Holbert, A.J. Foyt, Hurley Haywood, America's most successful endurance racer, Hans Hermann of Germany, Andy Wallace, Jackie Oliver, and Marco Werner. We'll be back. Long way to go in the Michelin 24 Hours of Le Mans, the 74th edition, live here on Speed. Sunday night at 9, check out a special edition of Wind Tunnel with Dave Despain as Dave goes on the road to spend the entire hour covering the Dean of American Motorsports journalist, Chris Economaki. Not only will you hear from Chris about the past, present, and future of motorsports, you'll also get the thoughts on Chris from Mario Andretti, Tony Stewart, Dick Berggren, Donald Davidson, Jackie Stewart, and many more. So check it out at 9 p.m. Sunday night Eastern, only here on Speed. Wind Tunnel with Dave Despain. There goes the number 7 Audi. Now in the hands of Ronaldo Capello. Tom Christensen has climbed out. Another long stay in the garage, making it more and more difficult for that team to hoist Tom Christensen back to the top step of the podium once again. But we have a long way to go. Not quite halfway here at Le Mans. We want to welcome a special guest now down in the Peterson White Lightning Garage. He is Tim Mayer, the Chief Operating Officer of the American Le Mans Series and IMSA. Tim, welcome.
Thank you, Bob.
Now, what exactly is your role here this weekend? Are you observing? Are you participating? Tell us what you're doing here.
Well, I wish I could claim just to be a tourist down here, but we have a lot of meetings. In this 1 acre here in the paddock, there's 1,000 of the who's who of motor racing. So it's an excellent opportunity for us to talk to the board members of the various manufacturers who participate in the American Le Mans Series and, you know, all the various people. But over the last 3 hours, I've gotten actually to go out and play tourists. It's an unbelievable time to go out to the corners and go see the people. There's 300,000 people out here, and they're camped out, they're partying. It's just an amazing atmosphere.
It certainly is, and we certainly hope the weather holds up so that these folks don't have to put up with any more than they already have. Now let's talk a little bit about the American Le Mans Series. You'll be using the rules once again from Le Mans, from the ACO. There have been a number of rules, and I've been asked this a lot via email from fans at home. We're hearing about drivers not spinning their wheels in the pit lane and some other rules regarding these cars. How much of that will be transferred to the ALMS in the days and weeks and months to come?
Well, the ACO, the Automobile Club of the West, which sanctions this race, they understand that America is a different market. We have some other requirements. I mean, just for instance, there's a pit wall in the pits of most American circuits. So, I mean, that changes everything that we do in the pits. So they recognize that, they understand that. They give us the latitude to run the races the way we need to run them. The basic technical specifications are exactly the same. We're allowed to tinker with some things on the cars, but not many. And really, why would we want to do that? These cars are just the best looking, sexiest looking cars on the planet. And you know, you've been telling the story all evening about these Audis and the Porsches and all these different cars. I think there's nothing like it in the world.
Now, there have been a lot of exciting announcements. We know that the Audi R10s will be coming to America to race in the ALMS. We know that the ProDrive Aston Martins are coming. Acura has announced a program in the very near future for ALMS. And I'm sure you'd agree this is all exciting news for the series.
Well, the good news is we've got all this manufacturer content. They're coming. These are exciting cars. These are really the most technologically sophisticated cars in the world. We are the only series really in the world, along with the Le Mans series here in Europe, that has nothing spec about it. There are no spec tires, no spec engines, no spec cars, bodywork in the series. Everything's different. When you come to watch one of these races, you know, you get the opportunity to see these manufacturers showing their absolute best wares. And I think that this is, with Acura coming on board and, as you say, Aston Martin committing, you're seeing the world's best brands come to the United States to compete in the American Le Mans Series. And, you know, Lime Rock is coming up in just a couple of weeks, and it's going to be a great race.
Well, of course, with the Porsche winning that race at Mid-Ohio just a couple of weeks ago, in fact, coming first and second, which was an LMP2 car, effectively, which is where Acura will be. You should see some real superb fireworks next year when Acura come in, because you know that anything that Honda do in the racing world, they don't do half-heartedly.
Absolutely. Well, you know, Roger Penske is famous for mixing things up. He comes in the LMP2 category. Theoretically, these cars are supposed to be slower, but he managed to make that engine do something that it really shouldn't be able to do. And yeah, they won at Mid-Ohio, convincingly, I should say. So Lime Rock, which is, as they say, in a couple of weeks, is a tight course, favors these lighter LMP2 cars. So they have a pretty good opportunity there. And Honda, as you say, Honda Performance Development, which is running the Acura program. Robert Clark and his team there are responsible for the cars at Indianapolis. And there's nothing that they do highway. They are 100% people all the time. And as you've seen this evening in this race, 99.9% isn't good enough. It's got to be 100%. And that's what these guys present to us every week.
Tim, you know as well as we do that racing is a sport that marches on its wallet. These cars can be very expensive. At the moment, we're looking at the inaugural Lone Star Grand Prix in Houston, Texas. Very difficult racetrack. The Audi R8s emerged triumphant. As we watch them win, a question that I wanted to get to is, these cars are difficult to maintain, very difficult to race, very expensive to run. How is that going to be reflected in plans for the ALMS in the future? How often can you race? How large do you expect your fields can be?
Well, I think the important thing is not how many cars we have, but what quality of cars we have. And I think the public is just fascinated by the technology and the drivers that they see the quality of these teams. And you don't need hundreds and hundreds of cars in a field. You know, here at Le Mans, they started 50 cars. We, generally speaking, start in the 26, 27, 28 number. Our races are a little bit shorter than Le Mans. Our longest race is 12 hours, the 12 hours of Sebring. And so, yes, it's an expensive process, but it's well worth it. And manufacturers see the return on investment. It's very difficult to find a place as a manufacturer. If you're Audi, I mean, they're just 3 pits down from me here. And if you're Audi, it's a hard thing to find a place to demonstrate the kind of technology that you put on the race car, on your street car rather, and to show it in a place that's unequaled. I mean, here, performance, endurance, technology is what it's all about. They're showing, as they did at Sebring, where they won, and where they won at Houston, as you say. They showed that they have unparalleled technology and injection technology and saving fuel. Here they're going 1 and 2 laps longer than anybody else in the field with their fuel-injected diesel cars. So, you know, these manufacturers look at that. They say, you know, this is a place we can demonstrate that. We can really show the differences in the technology. I mean, just a small example. The Audi team in the United States, Dave Mirage and the champion Audi team there, if they need a tire pressure sensor, they can now go get it at the dealership down the road, because they developed it in parallel with the race team, and now that's available all over the world. So, you know, this is a really technology-driven series. It's expensive, but worth it for the manufacturers.
This is Tim Mayer, COO of the American Le Mans Series and IMSA. Tim, we want to thank you for taking the time to chat with us. We look forward to seeing these great cars back in the United States very soon. Enjoy Le Mans.
Well, thank you, Bob.
Okay, that is Tim Mayer. We're going to take another break. The race continues. We're open all night here at Le Mans. 20 hours of live coverage your way on speed. Lee Diffie will be with you in my seat when we return. Tomorrow on Speed, the definitive pre-race NASCAR show returns to set the grid and latch up the window net. Get fired up for race day with NASCAR racing. Built by the Home Depot tomorrow at 11:30 Eastern, only on Speed. There's a look down into the press room, and there are a lot of press on hand here at the 74th running of the Michelin 24 Hours of Le Mans. Audi alone is hosting some 350 members of the press. I'm Bob Varsha with David Hobbs. Yes, I know I promised Lee Diffie, but just be patient, fans. He'll be coming your way very soon. Let's get down in the pit lane now, where Calvin Fish is standing by with a member of a driver lineup that has had quite an up and down Le Mans thus far. Calvin?
Well, I have had an up and down sort of day, but Nick Janssen, your first experience of Le Mans, what has it been like for you to take your first laps on this fabled racetrack?
Well, you know, it's a fantastic place to be at. I mean, the crowds are fantastic here, and, you know, the racetrack is definitely something, you know, exceptional from, you know, anything I've been at before. I've been racing all over the world, but this is definitely something different, and I'm so happy to be here. And, you know, unfortunately, we had some, you know, mishaps there, shock a little early, so we're like 5-6 laps down right now, but we worked on it, and the car is good, and I'm going to go back in it for a double stint now and, you know, try to work into the mornings here. So it's good. It's fun.
You've had a lot of success running Porsches in the past with podium finishes, certainly at Sebring, a long-distance race. When you come here, this isn't what you're driving week in, week out right now. Nick, you run the DP car over in the Grand Am Series. How much of an adjustment for you is it to jump back in a GT2 car?
Well, it's not that much of an adjustment because, as you said, I've been driving with this white flag team before. It's more like, you know, to get used to the track than anything else, and you have to kind of, you know, try to sneak up on it, and that's what I've been doing the first couple of stints there. So now it's just kind of, you know, in cruising mood, and, you know, hopefully, you know, we can be able to make it home in the top 3 at least.
All right, mate, great to see you here this year.
Good luck to Nick Janssen and his teammates, Tracy Krohn and Jörg Bergmeister, the rest of the way. Scanning timing and scoring to check on where they are. Running 23rd overall. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6th in GT2 as we speak. Once again, GT2 providing tremendous mechanical diversity. First place in class right now is a Porsche 911 GT RSR. Second in class, that Audi V8 powered Spiker from the Netherlands. Third place in class is a Ferrari 430 GT,
which was leading earlier on, so there's been some shifting around here amongst the top 3 in that GT2 class. The Ferrari, the Scottish car, driven by Mullen at the moment, Tim Mullen. The Spiker is being driven by Hazeman, who's Toyn Hazeman's son. Toyn Hazeman used to be a top driver here at Le Mans, and of course did a lot of German Touring Car Championship and World Touring Car Championship, as well as racing here many times.
This is Emanuele Pirro. Recall, he was late getting into this car. His teammate Marco Verno brought the Audi in and stood there with the belts waiting for Emanuele Pirro.
This is a short stint. He certainly hasn't done 15 laps.
No, this has got to be unscheduled. They immediately put the car up on the dollies and whisk it back into the garage, where more than the 4 mechanics who are restricted in the work area in the pit lane can get to work on it. Off comes the engine cover, and this is not good for the race leaders. With a 4-lap lead over the second place, Pescarolo Judd, currently in the hands of Sebastian Loeb, the World Rally Champion. Bureau stays in the car.
Boy, are they doing the on that one as well?
They're looking front and rear, as though perhaps they're not sure exactly what they're looking for. Calvin Fish, what can you tell us?
Well, the initial report was that Emanuele Pirro is having some kind of shifting issue, so that's why they're going under the backside of the car. That's all I can tell you this far. But as you can tell, they've got this very unique scissor jack built into the floor system here in the garage area. The garage floor is built up about 3.5 inches, and they just pull the car in. It's like a scissor jack comes up, and they get it up on the stands immediately. So everything has been thought out. Everything has been thought out. We don't know what sort of problem.
Can't afford to lose too many laps here. The Pescarolo car seems to be running pretty strong here tonight. So a few laps will go by the wayside in a hurry. We saw those Pescarolo mechanics in their green and blue uniforms watching the monitors.
Suddenly perked up there for the half-past 3 in the morning, didn't they? Looking up 10 to 4 in the morning.
What have we here? Well, Calvin's right about that scissors lift in the floor. These Audi folks just seem to think of everything. They came here with that completely changeable rear end. Your son Guy was calling it when they brought that car into the garage. They thought it would take them about 7 minutes to change the whole rear end on the car. They did it in about 3:45.
Hardly lost a lap.
That's right. That was a subsequently banned technology, but they just come up with something new all the time.
They knew they were going to have trouble with the transmission. They thought they were going to have trouble with the transmission. So just to be on the safe side, instead of just fixing the transmission, they just changed the whole rear end, suspension, gearbox, transmission, the whole thing. It was pretty slick, and as you said, it took about 3.5 minutes to do the whole thing.
I'm wondering why they're still paying such close attention to the front end of the car, if it's a shifter issue. Once again, this diesel produces
Dr. Ulrich in the left-hand corner there with the bald-headed gent. He's the brains behind the whole Audi racing program.
And a guy who's not afraid to roll up his sleeves and dive in there with a wrench.
And of course, the car is actually run by Reinhold Jost. That might have been him standing in the background there.
Reinhold Jost with, what, 7 victories here at Le Mans as a...
Never won himself, drove himself here, of course, before. But figured out that he would be better off running cars than racing them.
As the old saying goes, if you want to win the Indianapolis 500, give a call to Roger Penske. If you want to win Le Mans, the number you need is that of Reinhold Jost of Germany. Calvin Fish can add.
Well, it's difficult to tell from the front end of the garage. Obviously, we're not allowed to the back side, but I thought I saw a complete gear cluster being handed to a mechanic there at the back of the gearbox area. So, as we've said before, that lightning rear end change is not allowable anymore with the Le Mans rules. You have to change the parts. The gearbox casing, just like the monocoque, has to be used the same piece throughout the whole event, but they can't go inside and change the internal. So that looks like that's what's happened. And it looked like they were certainly ready for it. Certainly the Jost team, the whole Audi preparation is just meticulous. They try and think of everything that can happen during a 24-hour race. They certainly have the experience, and it shows every time we show up here.
In fact, Calvin, we do see that gear cluster lying on the floor of the garage at the back of the car. It's a 5-speed made by Extract, at least the internals are, as opposed to the 6-speed, which is more common up and down the pit lane in these LMP1 cars.
Well, when you've got 800 pounds-feet of torque, and you only rev to 5,500, you don't really need more. Actually, you could probably get away with about 2 speeds on this. But it's a miracle, actually, that the transmissions and gearboxes in these cars, I mean, I'm not surprised they're having a problem because the torque is just so enormous out of these things. You can't imagine how a racing gearbox puts up with it.
And with one fewer gears in the cluster, you can also make those that are still there a lot stronger. Yeah. In fact, Audi, despite making the gears stronger, say that this gearbox is actually lighter than the one on the R8.
I find that hard to believe. You're right.
Pirro busily talking to the engineers.
Well, the guys down, the number 17 guys down there, looking pretty happy with things at the moment. As they're clicking away, the minutes are clicking away.
3 laps is now the gap. So Audi has lost one. Looks like Emanuele Pirro is racing with glasses to help his eyesight. I knew he wore them, but I didn't think he ever wore them in the race car.
Last time I drove a Porsche at 956 here in 1989. I realized that things were changing because I didn't wear glasses, and going down the straight at 220 mile an hour was fine, but I couldn't read the instruments too well because suddenly realized I needed to do a Bob Wallach and put on some you know, bifocals of some sort. Oh, pulling the oil in already, so that was a quick change.
That's a lot of oil, too.
Well, that's a quick change for an internal.
Amazing, yeah. Well, as Calvin was saying, they look for every possible eventuality, and I'm sure the gearbox was designed for quick internals changes. Thumbs up from the driver. We'll keep an eye on Sebastian Loeb in the Pescarolo. See if he can pull within a couple of laps of this race-leading Audi before Emanuele Pirro can get back on track. And the gap is now down to 2, but the 17 is in the pits. Chris Neville's there.
Bob, this team really came to life just a few minutes ago. We saw it on the monitors. The team started standing up, trying to figure out what was going on with the 8 car. This is the win they needed to kind of lift their sails and get them back in this race. They're still saying this car is running flawlessly. Loeb staying in for his 3rd stint. We're going to have to see, are they going to put some new Michelins on the car, or is he going to triple stint these tires? It looks like he's going to triple stint.